Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Sequel Q&A. My name's Doug. So the next sequel that we're going to be covering is a TV movie sequel, and one that I never knew existed until we were reaching out for another sequel. But after we saw The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, we had to discuss it. And for it, we talked with actor and voice actor extraordinaire, Mark Acheson. Mark, beginning of the conversation, we're talking right when Florida Panthers, for hockey fans, or if you're not a hockey fan, Florida Panthers are up 3-0 on his hometown team, Edmonton Oilers. And then they were down 3-0, but after we talked, at least Edmonton sadly lost, but they forced the game 7, which made it fun. So we talked a little bit about that. He's from Canada. You have to like hockey or they kick you out. Talked about his early, his why for starting to acting, that journey to that first credit in a movie called Skip Trace. And then we talked about just how he became working. He was always a working actor, like he says. Some of the movies he might have 7 or 8 credits in the year. Some movies he was only on for 2 or 3 days, but some great stories from a lot of them. His memorable scene from Elf with Will Ferrell in the mailroom, and how his scene almost got cut, but Jon Favreau wanted to keep it in. Great story about working with Norm Macdonald, meeting Bill Bixley on The Trial of the Incredible Hulk. So along the years, he was able to meet and work with a lot of people that he admired. We talked about he was in Hot Rod. He is just so memorable and so much. Like he said, he's not one of those guys you could put in the background because he does have a different look. He has the look of a character actor. You remember him from whatever movie that you watch or show, you see him in the background. You catch him. You couldn't put him just as guy standing at the bar with no lines because you know him from something else because he has that memorable look to him. And we also talked about auditioning for a voice acting gig. What goes into that? He explained what you get prior to be able to formulate that voice that you go into the audition with. But yeah, Mark was a lot of fun. Do me a favor, if you're new here, please subscribe. Please like us on social media at Sequels Only. YouTube, subscribe there too. Follow, share, all the fun stuff. And just continue to tell your enemies about us. Because maybe they'll be like, man, maybe they do like me. Because they sent me this really cool podcast. And then you get closer and closer, and then you can exact your revenge. Maybe that's something that some evil people would do, but it'd be funny. Lots of fun. Just like this week's chat. So I'm going to show you my yapper. Here is actor Mark Acheson. So Mark, are you a hockey fan? Because when I was looking at your IMDb, I see you're from Edmonton.
Yeah, I was born there. Sure, of course. I'm Canadian by birth.
I think you have to be.
Forced to be a hockey. Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, part of the passport thing. Yeah. So yeah, it's fun to watch. I don't know. Florida's looking pretty deadly right now, but we'll see.
I know. No, I'm a Ranger fan, so I hope Edmonton wins.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, they look pretty strong coming out. I thought you guys would beat Florida, actually, but well, there you go.
Very disappointing. But now, and they did find that Edmonton woman. I don't know if you saw the Edmonton woman that was all over the news and all over social media, who gave everyone a show in her section. They found her, and I wonder if she'll be at the next game for good luck.
Yeah.
So, Mark, how did it all begin? Growing up in Canada, it's not like there were so many outlets, obviously, for the actual filming. There was on locations. Can you see me?
Yeah. No, there was no film and TV when I started, man. I mean, we're talking about before the Paleozoic era. This is way back. I was stage. That's all I did. Stage and theater. And I toured.
And how'd you get to the stage? Like when you were a kid, what was like an influence? Was it a class in school, or did you watch a movie and say, I wanted to try that? How did that?
Yeah, all of the above. I went to drama club and got into that. I love movies. I love TV. I really dug that. So I took that and went to acting college, theater school after high school. And never, I mean, this is always what I wanted to do right from the beginning. This is about 12. This is all I wanted to do.
That's wild that you were able to achieve that and do it and keep doing it. And where did you go to school? Was it in Toronto? Was it in Edmonton, Vancouver?
Vancouver, yeah. I
Ah,
grew
okay.
up in the Yukon, up in Whitehorse, but I came down to go to college in Vancouver. I heard the Studio 58 program was the best one to actually get you out there and working, and so I took that and graduated, and then we formed our own theater company after that, and we had our own theater for about 3 or 4 years, and then slowly morphed into film and TV after that.
Was that always the goal? Is that most stage actors' goal? Like, hey, I love what I'm doing here, but it's to get on TV and movies. Is that what you always thought of as the end?
Well, it was really early times, right? Like we're talking about McCabe and Mrs. Miller's days, way back. Altman, that was the first big production that shot up here. But honestly, I loved theater. I loved stage. I got to work in a lot of different theater companies all across Canada. But once you do a show, it's over. You
Yeah.
rehearse it and then you perform it for a month or two, maybe 3 months if it's a hit, and it's over. It disappears. But when you did something on film or TV, it stayed there. It has some permanence to it. And then I can't lie, the money is. It changes a lot of things, right? All of a sudden, in one day, you can make what you can make in 2 months on stage.
Yeah, when I asked him that. I was like, "Do you ever go back?" And he said, "There's like a time in the '90s or maybe the 2000s," but he said he was, "I would love to do it, but they want me for 6 to 8 weeks to rehearse,
Yeah,
and the show's for like 4 weeks or whatever it is." And he's like, "And that whole 3 months, I can make that, almost in a weekend at times." So no, I do
yeah,
get it. It's so hard because it's like the beginnings and where you can see that instant gratification from the crowd. You can do your scene and you can feel that you move them in whichever way, either happy, sad, mad, or glad. And then, but with a TV or film, it's like months, years at time. You
yeah,
don't get that's the difference. But I understand the money
yeah,
factor.
yeah. But yeah, it could take a long time before something you did on film or TV comes out. But then when it comes out, it's like a wave of people sometimes come at you, going, wow, wow, and you're going, well, what was that? And they, remind you, oh, it was that thing you did like a year ago or something like that. And like Elf just was like that on steroids. And
Yeah, because that's a scene. You have like YouTube, and people can rewatch that scene over and over. So I can understand that being noticed. But what was that? Do you remember like one of the early ones that you were like out somewhere and somebody said, "Hey, I know you from Wise Guy." I
oh,
always mention Wise Guy because of that's a very underrated show, and that's like right around that boom of Canadian, TV and film in the mid '80s.
yeah, well, there was a few shows like that. Wise Guy, MacGyver, you get a lot of street cred from. Of course, X-Files, and
Oh
then later
yeah,
on, Supernatural. I did a couple of seasons on there. So those shows, you get a lot of feedback, immediately, sort of thing. But you don't hear much about them later on, right? The
yeah,
weird thing about Elf was it was pretty good in the beginning, and then it sort of progressed year after year because it sort of forced people to watch that from November to December every year. And so it's shown over and over and over again because it's a classic, right? And I still I get a lot of attention for that. And it's just like one of those fluky things that just became way, way bigger than I thought it would and lasted a lot longer. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah. No, it's probably like usually when you think something's gonna be big, it's not gonna be that case, but you never know. Like
Exactly.
when you shoot anything, I've talked to, and I'm sure you feel this way because you got to think when you were growing up, when you saw like a movie or a show, for the most part, maybe you saw it again, but
Yeah,
it
maybe.
wasn't like it is now. So
Yeah.
people, I talked to directors that shot for like Canon Films in the '80s, and this one guy, Sam Furstenberg, he said, "I didn't think people would ever watch this, let alone get together 30 years later for like a reunion." He goes, "Because back in the day, it was like you shot a movie, it was almost forgotten about."
Yeah, I know, totally. This last year being the 20th anniversary of Elf, I got a lot of contact interviews and things like that. And I realized, what a real gem of a movie that was and what a godsend it was for my work. So My career changed overnight when that movie came out.
That
Things
was the
all
movie. That was the
changed.
pivotal point.
I mean, I was getting regular work and I was doing my bit, right, and all
Yeah,
that
you were
stuff, but
busy for
never,
your time.
yeah, I was getting lots of work and everything, but not anything like. I would get work like people just see me walk into the audition room and they hire me right there, because they go, "Oh, you're the guy from Elf," and sometimes I wouldn't have to read; they would offer me the part and stuff like little things
Wow.
that big difference. And I can't believe it. That was one 22-hour day. I shot Chronicles of Riddick for 4 weeks. No, 1 week was 16 hours a day, the whole week. 4 weeks, you can hardly find me in that movie because they cut so much out. But 22 hours one night, and like you never hear the end of it. Thank God.
Yeah,
Real
that's
blessing.
awesome. So
Yeah.
what was the first step into TV and film? So you're doing you had the theater troupe, and did you seek out an agent, somebody seek you, or you just wanted an open audition?
Oh, I shopped around for an agent for a while, and I had given all of my pictures and my stuff to this one fellow, and I hadn't heard from him in like 3 weeks, and so I was getting kind of like sensitive about it. So I contacted. I think I want to come down and pick up all my material, and I'll just go someplace else. Right? And he goes, no, come on in, come in. And so I go in and he goes, no, I want to take you on, no problem, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, oh, by the way, congratulations on your guest starring role on Lightning Force. And I went, what? He knew before I did, right? And so he knew that if he picked me up then, that he would get that commission. But he's been my agent for 38 years since. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So but since the beginning, so he's still your
still my agent. Yeah.
So
well,
38
I have one
years
agent for film and TV, and then I have another agent for voiceover work for the cartoons and stuff. 2 different places.
So what was your first credit? Because IMDb is never right. They have like movies like Skip Tracer, Plutonium Incident.
That's my first credit, Skip Tracer. Yeah, the first time I was on camera. Zale Dalen directed that. It was a really kind of cool piece about guys that are going after loans that haven't been paid back, skipping payments and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. It had some great character acting in it. And I didn't have any lines per se. It was my first time ever being on camera. But they had me in the background as this guy, right? And they had a mic going through the shot as they were doing a rail shot through the office. And one of the guys said, hey, listen to what's on this mic. And so anyway, Zale letting my vocals be the background for that scene. And so I got my voice heard on the first movie too. So I was happy about that.
So you got your SAG card right away? Was that when you got your SAG card?
This would be an actor card, not all of Canadian. Actor card. And then we our own union, Union of BC Performers, a little bit after that, because certain producers weren't paying us any residuals and stuff like that. So we became our own union out there, and thank God we did.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah. They try to take every penny back, even though they're making a ton on it. They want to take away residuals, which is insane.
We would get residual checks. Yeah, we get residual checks for 69 cents or 79 cents, right? And we would compare as actors, like who has the lowest residual check. And nowadays, it's not weird to get a 4-digit residual check, and that happens several times a year. So that's the difference in having a union, not having a union. It made a big difference. Yeah,
no, it's good. It's something that it's part of, like when you go into the acting career, it's like part of the in a sense, like retirement or just keeping everything along.
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost semi-retired now, but I still work. I just got cast in something in a couple months, just a small thing. But they didn't audition me, and I really like that. I really like it when they just go, "Can you come out and do this?" and for a couple of days. But I'm a homebody. I own a '64 Impala, and I like to tool around in it and have fun. And I'm almost 70 now. I've been doing this since I was 12, so I don't chase after it very much anymore. But I sure have a lot of fun when I do.
Yeah, no, totally. It's it got to be like always a fun thing, like playing pretend. Where are you at now? Are you in Canada? Are you in California?
No, I'm in Canada. I've been
Nice.
moving around in Canada, but I just found a new place, real nice place, and just settling down for a while. And I'm going to enjoy my grandson, and I have a new,
Yeah.
and that's really cool. Traveling a fair bit and stuff like that, doing the odd convention and stuff because I I,
Yeah.
I, I did Lord Tyrek and My Little Pony for several years. And I don't know if you know, but My Little Pony has a
Yeah.
really rabid fan base. They're called
My
bronies.
daughter just got into it a year ago. She's 5.
Is that right?
And my wife liked it when she was a kid. I remember my sister had the toys, but a lot of those things it's kind of cool actually because it's all coming back, like the new Turtles movie and stuff. And I can get
Yeah.
my daughter and son into it. So no, she loves it. When I saw that in there, I was like, oh my God. So you get a lot from that?
Yeah, well, it gives you a chance to meet up with folks that like your work, and you get to travel a bit. I was in Germany last year, and Vegas, and even North Dakota. I mean, I traveled around a bit, just shaking hands and getting pictures taken, but it was fun.
Isn't it wild to think it's like there's something of you as yourself, like being an actor in a scene in a movie, but the voice part, isn't that like you are in like a studio recording it and then X amount of time later you're getting flown to Germany for a convention for that part you did? That's wild.
Yeah, I'm really blown away by My Little Pony. Hasbro really has a machine out there as far as that goes, and the fans are really, really authentic and rabid. I mean, they dress up; they're more intense than you can possibly imagine, and they keep you busy the whole time. But it's been a real gas. I mean, I really enjoy connecting up with people because with me sometimes they recognize me from film and TV, and then they put the two things together. A lot of
Yeah,
voice actors, they only do one or the other, right? They don't do film and TV, most of them, but I sort of needed to go back and forth just to make a living out of all of it. I needed whatever kind of income, even commercials I did, just to keep
totally.
income coming. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, no, definitely. And the more you're seen, the more it's better for your next audition. If so you're in a commercial, people sometimes remember commercials more than some. Everybody's going to see a commercial. Not everybody's going to see one particular movie or a show. So no, it's good to be able to like
We did
diversify.
that Sprint commercial where what if the world was run by this, that, or the other, right? One time was a movie set, people doing a wedding, and then another time was firefighters running the Congress. But we were lumberjacks running a divorce court. And that was a lot of fun. That got a lot of air, and it showed around the United States and Canada for a couple of years. It was good.
That's awesome. So from Skip Tracer, you get that, like you said, you were like, this is for me. I'm not going back to theater. So then you have like the plutonium, and I'm sure you're still doing. Are you still at this point still doing theater? Like the plutonium incident. There's Huckleberry Finn and his friends, just like little things. But it seems like just based on your credits, you're probably still like Skip Tracer. What year is that? Because I think IMDb has it wrong. They have it as 77.
Yeah, they put down 77. I know it was we were shooting around 75, but it might not have been
Oh,
released
okay.
till
So that's fine.
77.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, and back then, from 75 to about 85, I did a little bit of film and TV because there was only a little bit that you had, and then I would do theater, and you could sort of bounce back and forth. But then as more and more film and TV came up, then less and less theater. I haven't been on the stage in a number of years. I miss it, but I think there's always an opportunity that might come up sometime. I don't know. I would always have a chance. I love Shakespeare. I loved Ibsen, Goff, all of the great playwrights. I enjoyed performing a lot, especially Shakespeare. I did most of the canon of Shakespeare through a couple of different theater companies I worked for. But after 10 years of theater, I was really happy to just focus on film and TV. And then after a while on film and TV, people said, you should do this voice stuff because it's really good too. And so I got
Yeah.
into that, and I realized, oh man, you can do an episode in the morning and an episode in the afternoon. It's like doing 2 different days on set. You don't have to change your clothes. You have lunch in between. You're home by 5. I mean,
Yeah.
sign me up. Sort of the same feeling you got from film and TV after you're on stage for a while. It's like, this is
Yeah. Yeah.
getting really sweet.
Yeah, it's good to have that change, but
Yeah.
yeah. So then, like 87, like you mentioned, it was like to 85, but 87 is where it like really picks up. You have like Stingray, Home Where the Heart Is, The Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
Working with Bill Bixby, that was really incredible. He did a thing that nobody usually does, right? Like you're in a room, a waiting room to go in to meet him, and there's like 4 or 5, maybe 6 other guys waiting there to read for the same part. And so I go in there, and he's a really nice guy, and we do it. Okay, can you do this a little bit? I give it back to. And he comes right up and he goes, "Welcome aboard. You're signed up." And I was real happy, right? And then I went. Really? I mean, like, the other guys. I mean, really? But I just kept the smile down, and I walked out, and I didn't look mean at the other guys or anything like that. But that was the kind of guy that Bill Bixby was. He was just, and he was really nice on set, and it was one of the last things he did, before he got sick.
Yeah.
And he was an icon. I mean, My Favorite March, and the Courtship of Eddie's Father, and then on Incredible Hulk. All of these were great series in their own
Yeah,
right.
mega
All
hits.
of them,
Yeah.
Yeah, lasted a long time, and he was big in every one of them. But he was a really, really nice guy. Too bad.
That's a cool moment. That's a good memory to have. Were you a comic book team up? Were you?
I love Marvel and DC and stuff like that. I got to play Sabretooth against Hulk versus Wolverine in a TV animation, a movie animation. I really dug that, and I also did a voice on Aquaman, and of course, other series. But I liked the Sabretooth character a lot. I had a lot of fun with that guy, and I liked that. I did. Because people, there's sites where they compare certain voices of actors, right? All the people that played Sabretooth, all the people that have played Optimus Prime or Megatron, all the people that have played, Lord Tyrick, and they compare the voices over and sort of let people vote on what they think was the best voice and stuff. So
another Canadian is the Optimus Prime voice for a lot of choices. Gary Chalk.
Gary Chalk, yeah. I was Unicron and he was Optimus Prime. You got a lot more episodes than I did, but I was the destroyer of worlds, so I always take top billing. But and then I played Crumple Zone in that series too later on. But Gary's a monster. I mean, he's He-Man, Masters of the Universe. There he was playing He-Man, and I'm playing Fisto. That sort of thing.
I was joking with him because I'm like, I know like Vancouver, it's not like it's a small place. But he's like, what, you think all of us Canadians know each other? And one guy he worked with, but I named like 3 Canadian guys that I've interviewed, and he said, yeah, like Michael Benyere.
Yeah.
Do you know him at all?
Okay. Sure, yeah.
I know. Do you know Matt Hill? I have his autograph. He was like one of my. He was one of the first people. Yeah, Ninja Turtles, Street Sharks. He signed Ed, and Eddie, but no, it is funny. And I also mentioned Michael Benyere because I think it's so weird. I've never heard anyone ever talk about this show except there's these people I worked with. This older guy, he was probably at the time in his 60s. He goes, "Man, you got to watch this show. I know you'll love it." And he hands me the DVD, the complete first season of Wise Guy.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
That is one of those shows that it is so good. It's like, again, Ray Sharkey. Like if he didn't, I don't know what that show maybe could have become after that. But wow,
no, what? It had a great cast and it had a great feel being on there, right? And I got to do a couple episodes, and then I did a Wise Guy movie as well later on. But
nice.
But anyway, it was a great show. It was a lot of fun. Really cool people. Even Kevin Spacey got his start in Wise Guy.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But like everybody in that cast, like Ken Wall was great. Banks is like, such a great show.
Yeah. And Jim Burns. Do you remember Jim Burns?
Jim Burns. Who is he in it? I see him here. Daniel Benjamin. Okay, yeah. I remember him.
Okay, right. He's bigger on another series. Oh, yeah. He's a good friend.
But
too.
yeah. Canadian.
And guitarist, great blues singer, guitarist, Jim Burns.
Really?
Yeah, we're all Canadians. We have a pretty little club up here.
Hollywood North. That's what Gary called it. He's like, I don't need to move to the United States.
We have more in common, with the Western U.S. than we do with Eastern Canada when it comes to a lot of things.
I'm sure.
It's just the way it is. I would say that out of all the years that I've worked, I would say that 95% of my income was in U.S. dollars all the time.
Yeah.
5% came from Canada. So, we've just been part of the whole system for like a long time. We're like-minded. We're 2 hours away by airplane, back and forth, which is really fast commute, Yeah, we're Hollywood. No, I would just say we're a different section of Hollywood sometimes instead of more the upper side or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Now being part of you call it's the Acting Guild, right? The Acting Guild of Canada. Is there do you have to do X amount of Canadian projects a year, like when you were acting or anything like that?
No, to get the card back in the day, you had to come up with a certain amount of money, and then you had to get 6 requests for permits within a 2-year period. So that was tough sometimes. I mean, you had to hustle to get that 6 within that 2-year
That's tough
period. Yeah, but once you're in, you can work on anything as long as sanctioned by the union. But whatever money I make, I always do 1 or 2 things free a year. And most of the time they just disappear. They're just paying it forward and hope something comes back. But every once in a while, you do something that really, really resonates. And I did this independent film a year and a half ago called Never Broken, which is it's a short, but it's really brilliant short. And it's already gotten all sorts of awards and stuff like that, and has been on a lot of different film festival lists and stuff. So I'm really proud of that. So that's a cool movie that is Canadian, right? And so that's where I like to show my help with is if there's young producers, young directors, writers that have something close that can appeal to my vanity and not ask me to audition for it, just go, would you like to do this? I mean, if they like your work, they like your work, right? And so, and when that comes up, I'm always real happy to do it. I did another one earlier this year. I'll keep doing them, and that's where my Canadian content comes in. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's good because you're giving back. Like you mentioned, you're paying it forward. You're giving these kids an opportunity to also pick your brain and your experience. And I think sometimes they're better projects. You have a project that could be an enormous budget and there's so many people around, when you're shooting that like independent movie with maybe like 5 people, you have like a skeleton crew, they're there to get the job done and they're going to be focused. So it's like one of those, money's great, but when you could get real good emotion and good scripts when it comes from that type of place.
Yeah, you're not invisible. I mean, when we worked on Peter Pan and Wendy, for Disney 2 years ago, that was
good.
Like
I like
huge cast and huge set and people and stuff, and but this one was a much smaller, more personal kind of thing, and they really did appreciate every second you were out there. I mean, everybody treated you really well. Everybody treated us really well on Disney too. But we were taking COVID tests every second day, so we had things up our noses all the time. It was a different sort of thing.
What a time to be alive! That whole era was just insane. I remember what was the first movie that came back? Wasn't it like that, like a Denzel movie, like the one that they were trying to get Oscar buzz for? What was it? Was it a Shakespeare movie?
Oh, was it Shakespeare? I can't remember. I
remember Brian Thompson was in it. He had like a smaller role in it because I talked to him like right after, because he said they used like the Everybody Loves Raymond set, or it was like a random show, was the COVID testing thing. So he's like, you go into there, but I forget what it was. It wasn't Hamlet, but it was like a big movie like a few years ago. Like Frances McDormand was in it. But anyway, Yeah. So your first, back to the voice acting, because that's like kind of where we're at in your career. So the first one that's on here is G.I. Joe.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
And then,
Recommended you say, hey, go out for this, or somebody said, hey,
yeah, well, somebody said give it a shot, right? And I think, yeah, I mean, playing and having fun with all this stuff is the key to selling it, you know. And so there's a lot more room to play and have fun with a cartoon than film and TV sometimes, you know. I really enjoyed the broad strokes, and one role led to another, and there was like about 6 7 years there where I was going from one cartoon series to another, you know, sometimes 26 episodes, right? They would go for
wow.
2 years, and you're bouncing between these different, and then you know, it was great. I mean, I really loved it. It was just um, you know, it was a tough competition, and if you have conflicts with film and TV, it's not good. So they like people that are really one way or the other way, and but for a while there, I had a real gas. I really did. Fat Dog
No,
Mendoza was my first series that was mine, and where I played Fat Dog, and that was 26 episodes, and I love that series. It was really cool, you know,
did a
really
Fat
cool.
Dog Mendoza?
Fat Dog Mendoza, yeah.
That's really cool. Did somebody approach you for that, or was that just an audition? You got the lead?
Well, they were auditioning, and they had recorded 4 episodes using a really great actor, Blue Mancuma, to play Fat Dog. And they had a producer in Ireland, producer in New York, producer in LA, and then they would have the producer in Vancouver. The LA guy said, he sounds too black. And the doctor goes, well, that's because he is black, you know. And they said, well, can we do something, you know, and they were going to pull the whole series out of Vancouver and start to record it in Toronto. But they auditioned one more time and brought me in to read for Fat Dog. And I was exactly what they wanted. So 26 episodes later, it was so cool because I knew that show was all mine. You know, it was
Yeah.
yeah, and he's a really cool character.
That looks awesome.
He's a big fat dog and he eats like crazy, and you know, just like me. Anyway,
I
he's
I will check it out.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
That is really awesome. And now this might be something that it was probably such in the moment thing that you probably maybe didn't even think about it. But when you go in for your first voice, because it's something so new for you, obviously, you know, when you go to an audition, you get your pages or your sides and but for like voice, do they describe like what the character should sound
okay.
like?
So they give you the sides, the written text, and then
Yeah.
they'll give you one or two cells. That's a picture of the character.
Really? That's cool.
And so yeah, so I do anyway. I sit there, you know, and I practice it, and I look at the mask, and I look at that picture, look in the mirror, and I practice it. And I'm trying to combine the two into what I think the whole thing would be, you know. But the picture is really important, right? Yeah,
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's a great thing. How'd you go to when you were doing your back and forth when you were real busy there?
yeah.
How did you remember the voices? Were you that good to be like, oh, this is who I am? Or did you like have a tape recorder?
No, no, they would, if you got confused, they would give you a you know, reference. But there was one time when I was doing a Fat Dog, and then I was also doing Leaky Boat Louie in a series called Weirdos. And also I would get mixed up because we would live from one studio to the other studio the same day, because most of them are all recorded on the same day, Wednesdays or Thursdays. And so you'd hop into the car and go to and I would start off as fat dog, and they go, no, 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 this is Leaky Boat, who's like much more New York, you know. Leaky Boat Louie. You know, that much more lower and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's great. I love that you looked at the cell. So you look at the cell, just the picture that when I searched for Fat Dog Mendoza. That's interesting. Just a
He's fat.
ginormous head and
Yeah.
little legs.
And he eats, sort of like the German Shepherd I have right now, but he eats all the time.
But again, all that time you're so busy, like you mentioned, going back and forth on like one facet of acting. But your career, you're working just looking at your IMDb, just in 1994 alone, it's like just in that year, you're working like 7 or 8 films. The next year, 4 or 5. So you're always busy.
Yeah, but you got to understand, I'm a lunch pail actor. Okay,
Yeah, no, that's
I
true.
I don't get a run of the film or guest star roles that often. I've had a few, 20% maybe guest stars, but most of the time I'm just a character that comes in, delivers some important news, or cries some incredible pain, or something like that.
Yeah,
Does the thing, and he leaves. Right, so I take my lunch pail and I go. So a lot of these gigs that you're talking about are 2, maybe 3 days, and they're over before you know it. But for me
yeah,
to put a living together, especially back in '94, that you need to do a lot of them to
yeah,
pay the rent, But yeah, I always make it. It's like that old joke with the girlfriend. It looks much bigger than it is, That's
yeah. But it is cool to play those type of characters when, like you said, you're delivering that exposition. Like I talked with Patricia Calamber, and she was in a bunch of stuff, but like one of her most well known movies would be like Signs, and she's
sure.
barely in the movie, and she's like barely in it. Like they cut a lot of her scenes, and that was like the show. That's what she told me. Like M Night told her the day of the premiere that they cut a lot of her scenes, but it was so powerful. Like the one scene when you see her like stuck in the
Yeah.
car getting pinched next to the tree. So that could be something that's. Do you remember a movie that you did that you delivered something that was like that changed the movie, like lines or some scene happened that you were a pivotal part of it?
Yeah, I've been lucky with a couple of things. Alf, of course, was a big surprise because that was all ad libbed, and none of that was a
Really?
scripted thing. Yeah, they asked me to come in and say, "You got one line with Will Ferrell. Do you want to come in and do that one line?" And I said, "Yeah, Will Ferrell, yeah, for sure." And so I went there, and we do the one line, and then Will and John Favreau start going, let's have some fun, because it was the last day of shooting period for the whole film.
Really? So
They
you're
were
on the
in
last
town
day?
last day of the movie, and there was no turnaround, so they could shoot for as long as they wanted. So one thing led to another, and all of that stuff built up. And then there was a point where I heard they were going to cut all of me out. They were going to cut all of that out. And apparently the producers just didn't like that joke about I'm 26 years old, I got nothing to show for it. And so they thought nobody's going to believe that guy is 26. There's nobody going to. And John Favreau went, Dad, that's the joke. And he fought for me, and he kept that thing in. And when it came out, I was so surprised and so happy and stuff like that. Other movies like I did one with uh, the guy from Friends. Yeah, we just it was really sad because he died so soon. But um,
Yeah.
I played this homeless guy in the movie with him, and everything's going wrong for him, and he's sort of ignoring me the whole thing. And then he gets in some real trouble. He's in the police station in jail, and he's being threatened by these guys. And all of a sudden, I'm there, and I just calm him down, right? And we have this little scene, and it was a really pivotal scene, and it changed the whole course of the movie. And I love that part, and I love that. And a couple other times, Dad's Weekend Off with Fonzie, where I was crying in jail with him and stuff like that, and little bits and things like that. I've been lucky that way. I don't. I fit in the background too well. That's why I've never done really any extra work or anything like that, because I don't think they could hide me enough to. When I'm asked to do something, sometimes it works out really well. Other times it just gets cut, But that's the way it goes.
Henry
But I've
Winkler,
been very lucky.
that must have been really cool. Like you mentioned, like on working on Incredible Hulk, like working with someone that you kind of like grew up on. Like Henry was that.
Yeah. I mean, movie after movie. I mean, I got to work with Omar Sharif. once.
Wow.
Omar Sharif. I mean, that was amazing to me. You know, he was somebody I grew up with, Dr. Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia, and there he was, right? And being really nice and sharing the cool air in the tent and stuff like that, and a real gentleman and things. And lots of other really, really nice people. And other people not so nice, but
I'm sure.
that's what the world. That's what the world's made of. I mean,
Yeah.
I usually keep to myself, and I don't get all starstruck or anything like that. But I quietly smile when I think that I'm actually in a scene with this person or that person. Kurt Russell. When I got to work with Kurt Russell in 3,000 Miles to Graceland, that was nice, man. It was it was a nice little scene and nothing special, just exposition. But he was nice. I was nice. The weather was nice. We shook hands, and nice guy. And that's happened a lot to me. It's kind of cool that way.
Yeah, and you I know you mentioned your lunch pail for the most of the time, but so many really good movies and definitely some underrated ones. One of Hot Rod is a really cool movie, and those guys are all great. You think about all the people that are involved in that movie, they're comedic geniuses.
I know, and I was I'm coming into the trailer, and there's Bill and Andy, and they're all there, right? And they're so nice, and they didn't audition for me for the part again. It was they remember me from off, and they just said, "No, come on in, we want you for this thing." And it's just a little bit, right? But I had a gas, and it is a cool little movie. I don't think it got as much attention as it should have, but.
I know.
We did. Chronicles of Riddick didn't get near enough attention when it came up, but later on, it got to be recognized as sort of a unrecognized classic. It was a really good version of, not quite as good as the one before that, but better than the one after that, I thought.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you're right. When it comes to those movies, it just might be of the time, not being I think Hot Rod was in the theater, but another movie, I don't know if you saw Danny McBride's movie before that. It was called The Foot Fist Way, and he was a strip mall karate dojo owner. Oh, yeah. And he you've seen it?
Yeah, I think I've seen bits of it. I'm not sure. Okay. I don't think I'm. Yeah,
but a really funny movie, and I only saw it because it was at the video store. I'd walk around. I'm sure people that scroll on Tubi or Netflix, one of those, can see movies, but there's that big difference nowadays. Ever since I guess 21 Blockbuster went out mid 2010s, but there was that cool thing of going there, looking at the box cover, and there was this whole process to renting a movie. It wasn't just it has so and so and so and so. Sometimes you were tricked just by, oh my god, this box cover art looks awesome, and then the movie was not.
I rented 2 or 3 of those for sure. I remember that, right? Now you had skin in the game. You had to go out there. You had to look. You had to make sure everybody's going to be happy when you got home, or whatever. It's different now. Even going to the movies is sort of different, but that's the change in time. So many theaters that I've gone into, and hardly anybody in it. I mean, it's wild.
And even on opening nights and stuff. But it's just that on the opening night, Mark, you could be like, oh, am I going to spend $80 in the movie, or you got to think if you have a family. $80 plus popcorn, and then some of these movies are hey, we want you to watch it no matter what. We want to make money, so you could do $29.95 to rent it at home, and it's the same day as the theater. You're it's $30. I can get popcorn from the store, and so there's those factors. So it's kind of hurting that experience, because it was an experience. When you saw I saw Scream 2 in the movie theater, which is one of my, I was I shouldn't have saw it in the movie theater because they shouldn't have let me in, but it was experience. You have all these people, the emotions are riding high at the same times. So it almost enhances your experience with film.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you remember way back, when they had the big blockbuster movies where they would have sense around, or they would have your seat shaking in an earthquake or thing.
Yes.
It used to, the whole tension and the fear and all that thing was a group phenomenon, and you can't get that when you're, I mean, you can get sort of scared when you're sitting with your wife or whatever, but it's not the same thing as a room full of people, I mean,
it's not.
No. I mean, I enjoyed Oppenheimer a lot this year in the that should be one seen in the movie theaters. But that was behind Barbie as far as box office for last year.
I know.
So that tells you what, you know, what rules, you know. I mean,
I know. I know. No, no, it's totally. Yeah, it's like this weird thing. Like I remember going opening night all the time. We go Thursday at midnight, and I remember seeing like The Dark Knight, like that opening scene movie
yeah,
theater with all those people. Again, still really cool watching it on Netflix at home. I'm not gonna say it's not, but it's like there's just this big difference. So yeah, there's just like a shift in there's a big shift in the last few years of the way people are like ingesting their media.
yeah, it's changing an awful lot. That's why the strike happened, because AI and streaming are affecting people's income and stuff like that. Writers weren't getting their residuals and things, you know. So things had to change. But that's the one thing about this business that never changes is the fact that things keep changing. You know, that's
Oh,
just
I know. Box
but
office. Yeah, like the VHS tape, like the people that had the wherewithal of doing like a movie and thinking of, oh, this is going to be in the movie theater. This is going to be, in a video store one day. It's like video store. That's not even a thing. I forgot who I just talked to. That was how they filmed their first movie. It was a special effects guy, this guy, Jeff Goodwin. One of his first movies he worked on in like North Carolina was in 81. And he was there. So what are you going to do with the movie? Like do like independent stuff? You're going to try to get in the theater? He's like, no. When video stores come around, in a few years, we're going to make this big thing. The movie was so bad, so never made it there. But there's all these different booms that just got to see what comes after it, They had the made-for-TV movie boom, and then in the 90s, there were so many, like, Saturday night movies and stuff. But, so now more about you, Mark.
Horror and sci-fi movies.
Totally, yeah, they don't have cool Joe Bob's Back on Shudder, but it was cool when on TBS they would have, like, Monster Vision or even dinner in a movie. There was like these cool ways to ingest movies, but it's just maybe something like that will make its way back for us. But so Mark, we cover sequels and you've worked on a lot of them, but two of the ones that really caught my eye just to give in the era, like Look Who's Talking Now and Never Ending Story 3, which are two movies that sequels were a thing that were so taboo back in the day. It was like, all right, we're done with it. And then there was like the Planet of the Apes that really were like, all right, we're going to do a lot of them. And then horror would bang a lot out. But with some of these movies, it was wild that they made more of them, especially like Look Who's Talking and Never Ending Story.
You bring up two really fine examples of how I latched on to a franchise at the very end of its life sequence. I mean, that was Look Who's Talking Now was the last movie I believe that Travolta did before he hopped into Pulp Fiction. I think that was very bottom. That was the very bottom of his career, and he was about to skyrocket into something else. And Never Ending Story again, fabulous. First and second, but by the time they got around to me, the best thing about it was working with Jack Black. I
was about to say that. Yeah, so, Jack Black's young in that.
Yeah, he was cool and he was really nice. I really that was just a paycheck. I was flattered that I got on the franchise list at all. The one thing I was proud of though is I remember doing a pilot for a TV series called Psych, and I did the very first scene of the very first episode that he did anything. It was him and I in the very first scene, right? And so I liked it. It was great and everything. And then fast forward 11 years later, and they call me up and they go, "We're bringing that guy back for the movie Psych, and we want you to play that same guy in the movie Psych." So that was really cool. I really
I love when they do that. I'm sure this is something you've heard, but the new X-Men show, did you see what they did? They brought back all the original voices.
Oh, they did, eh?
Yeah, that's like a really cool thing because they could have done what other people do. And again, I'm not saying those people are busy or anything like that. It's really the nostalgia factor. Like for them to call you 11 years later, be like, "We want to bring back that guy from the pilot," and you'd be like, "Really?" Wow. That's like so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I played this character where I had this tattoo thing written over my forehead, like. I want to lose or something like that, tattooed on my forehead. So I was a real peach of a guy. And there I am, like, I'm looking at the rushes and I'm like, Yeah, it's definitely been 11 years since last time you wore that tattoo. But it was sweet anyway, and it was a good series, a really good series to be a part of. Yeah,
No, that's cool.
Supernatural too. I mean, I played the Tooth Fairy in episode 6, and they brought me back to be Hansel in episode 11. But fun little characters, all a lot of fun and really good set, really good people.
No, it's cool when you get brought back because they like you because they worked with you one time, or even if I'm sure you've seen in your career, the same casting director or same producers be like, hey, we want Mark because Mark knows what to do.
The thing that I was most proud of is when I did Fargo, and we did season 1, and we won 3 Emmys: Best Director, Best Casting, and Best Miniseries. And I had just one scene in it, but it was my scene. It's all my scene. The casting lady, Jackie Lynn, who does a lot of casting, actually, she got me 3 or 4 more roles after that. But she told me that the producers had this thing where they told everybody at the beginning of that episode, the series, everybody dies. Even Billy Bob Thornton dies. So nobody get any ideas. You're all going to die. Everybody dies. No leverage, no contract, nothing like that. So they killed me. And then they sent it back to the casting lady. We really didn't want to kill Mark. We were trying to find a way not to kill Mark. But I was proud of that. I really was.
That is cool. They bring you back, and they're like they're upset they killed you off.
Yeah, they didn't want to kill me off. Yeah,
it's a random thing. Yeah,
in writing, they brought back that character in a prequel form in season 2, where he was 30 years younger before makeup or something like some sort of
really.
Yeah, a weird thing I never really understood, but anyway, they brought that character back somehow, which is
that's really cool. No, that's cool that they did that. But here's a random thing: you've heard of Burning Man, right? Like that big festival that's in the desert. So 1 mile. I'm in New Jersey, so no joke, 1 or 2 miles from where I am right now. There was somebody in the 90s, I believe. They built a replica Falcor in New Jersey, the builder. Somebody brought it out to Burning Man, brought it back, and said, I don't want it. So it's been sitting in this guy's garage for 30 years, and he put it on Facebook, free take it. And the local in Highbridge, New Jersey, it's called Rascals Vintage. So it's a thrift store, and they have it in the garage. And they bring it to all the festivals in New Jersey, and they even did one with the characters from the first 2 movies taking picture. I have a picture of me standing on Falcor, and it's obviously the same one from the movie, but you can tell the difference. The teeth, everything. It's really neat, man.
That's cool. That's very cool.
So, Mark, I always love asking this question. I know one question I usually ask is if you didn't do acting. I know you knew from the age of 12 this was going to be what you're going to do for your life, but was there anything else that piqued your interest as a kid? I know you're so young, at that age, 11, 12, thinking about other careers, but.
Well, I know that my brothers and my mom and dad really worried about me choosing acting as a career. And my dad would often say, what are you going to do when you actually need to eat and stuff like that?
Come on.
And, maybe 10 years after that, I flew them down for something I was on stage with, and they still worried about me, but they thought, okay, well, maybe he's, I kind of I wasn't worried about making money. And so I would skateboard around, and I would do my auditions, and I'd work in restaurants a bit and stuff like that. But I had no desire to be anything else except somebody that could just pretend to be other people for short periods of time.
Yeah.
And I always believed that was going to work out. You could have knocked me over with a feather, when I got to my 40s and I was making money at it. Really, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that people would pay me money to do the things they're asking me to do, all the crazy things that they were asking me to do. light my hand on fire. It made me stand on a dam 1,000 feet above the roaring ocean. Mess around with a grizzly bear. I mean, take a crossbow and fall into a creek. Ride a horse into a herd of cattle firing off 45. It
Yeah.
was all crazy, crazy stuff. And I got to do it all. It's a trip. It's really a trip.
Yeah.
I mean, a long period of rejection and, sometimes 2, 3, 4 months no work or something like that. You question yourself over and over again. And I did, but I always got credits every year. That was something I was able to do. I was always made money every single year that I was there. And it's been nothing but really generous to me. I mean, I'm a very lucky guy, very, very lucky guy. And I know there's lots of guys out there that work way, way more than me, but I'm also conscious that there's lots of guys with union cards that work way, way less than me. So I'm
100%.
just a
Yeah.
happy guy. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's totally true. Were your parents around to see like Elf in that era of your career, or?
My dad was, my mom didn't, but my mom saw 2 things that I did on stage, and then she saw a couple things that I did on TV before, Elf, because Elf didn't come out
That's
until about
cool.
2000.
Yeah.
But my dad saw it all, and he'd phone me up and go, I saw you on this and that last night, you were
Ah,
doing that or that. He couldn't remember the name or whatever it was, but he would
he
phone
saw
me
his
up and let me
boy.
know.
That's all that
Yeah,
matters. He saw his son. It could have been
yeah,
like
probably not.
Clooney, but he saw his boy, and then that's a parents do. Even though my kids, I think about that. Like, I want them just to be happy, but in the same sense, you got to think like, hey, but you need money, you need these things to buy things. But it's great to have that mindset that like you never work a day in your life if you do something you love, and that's cool that you found that at such a young age. Because people live their whole lives and don't find anything that they enjoy.
I know. My son and my grandson both haven't really found that thing, whatever that thing is. And it's a lot harder to find those things now because the pressures of life and money are even more dramatic than they were when I was growing up. And I just wish them luck. Sometimes I think I'm luckier. Sometimes I think I was just too lazy and pig-headed to do anything else. I was just it was too easy. Too easy to act, and that's all I thought I could ever do. So I stuck with it.
Most people I talk to, it's the blinders are on because with so much rejection, you got to think, all right, it's time to give up. Right, you have those blinders on, you just see the finish line, and that's like such a good, like you said, you're being pig-headed with it, but no, it worked out. So another question I always love to ask is, like early in like the acting career, did you have the wherewithal to like keep any mementos of any films or TV shows, like give out gifts, or did you keep like your first scripts or anything like that?
I got a couple of little things that I'm kind of really proud of. There was a movie called The Pittsburgh with Norm Macdonald, Danny DeVito, and Dave Chappelle.
Oh, I know that movie. Did they change the name of it?
Pittsburgh, or Screwed, aka
Screwed. Yep.
And so they got the funding together for this, and then their funding fell through after they had cast me, right? And so I thought the project was dead. They climbed back up. No, we got new funding. They had taken the audition tapes of a few people to use to get the new money for the funding. And I'll never forget this now. I mean, Norm Macdonald was just in an open lunch table out in Fairwood somewhere, and Norm Macdonald came up to me, and he's like one of my heroes, And he said, Mark, I want to thank you a lot for that audition. We used that audition to get the money, and they really liked that. So I want to thank you ahead of time. You really helped us get oh my God. So fast forward to several years later, and one of the props guys that I was working with, I'm doing a brand new cherry flavor for Netflix, which was just right, a biker zombie. Anyway, he comes to me and he goes, here's Norm Macdonald's driver's license from Pittsburgh, aka Screwed. Here it is. I got Norm Macdonald's driver's license that was featured in the movie.
I love that.
It's mine. I mean, little things like that.
That's cool that guy gave that to you, because that's like 14, 15 years later, at least.
No, and he had been saving it for me. And Robert Altman directed me in a thing called Kixie, and I got to keep the Fluevog shoes that I wore on that, and Western. I kept a jacket that they let me keep. Little bits and pieces, but that license of Norm Macdonald's, especially after he died, because I mean, Norm Macdonald for me was probably one of the funniest comedians I've ever heard, because he could make a joke out of anything. I mean, and he pushed the envelope so well. But he was a really honest guy. I mean, it's a shame the movie didn't better. Norm Macdonald and Dave Chappelle in the same movie. You should knocked it out of the park. But that's the way it goes.
You're right about Norm. He was like so unique, and he could like take over. There's only probably like in more of the modern era, like the Letterman, like maybe like post Carson, that you had the guys that would like take over when they came on. He was one. Even like what's his name? Charles Grodin was another one who like did thing, and just his whole bit was just he was a dick, and he didn't want to be there. That's all he did to Letterman. He's like, you're gonna ask that question, pick a better question. But like Norm would just take over. I always loved Conan, because Conan would always keep the guests when the second guest would come on, and he would always take over the interview. And he would always just push it. The joke, like I remember what was her name? Courtney Thorne Smith. I've seen the clip so many times, especially when Norm passed. I watched like so many of his a lot of his interviews, a lot of his movies and stuff. But she's going to be in the Carrot Top movie, Chairman of the Board, and Conan's getting ready to throw to the commercial afterwards, and he goes, "Oh, board, Bored."
Yeah, I remember that. Do you remember his last stand-up bit when he was talking about Germany? And he was going World War I, and Germany decides to declare war on the world. And he comes, and so fast forward, and there's this guy, and he's talking like this, and the Germans in 1940 or 39, they wanted to start a war against the world. Anyway, it was his last bit that he did on TV before he passed away.
That's so cool that you have that. That's cool that you have that memento to remember that time.
Cool, and he was very young then, right? So he looked really good on his driver's license and stuff. So
yeah. Mark, this has been awesome, man. Thanks so much for pulling over while you're running errands. And when this comes out, I'll be sure to shoot it over to you. But thanks so much. I had a blast.
I'll put it on my website.
Rock on, Mark.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, man. Have a good rest of your day. What a great Norm story, right? It's always cool because sometimes you don't want to go through each person's credit. Like he said, some movies he was on for 2 days, some movies on for 2 weeks, 2 months. But it is crazy when I ask that question at the end, like, hey, what are some memorable items? And just he has that great story about working with Norm Macdonald and Dave Chappelle. And very, very, very cool story that he was able to get that keepsake, that driver's license that was Norm's from the movie. And it's so cool that somebody knew how much that meant to him and how great that was of Norm. Like, hey, your scene is the one that sold the movie to the studio, so we want to pay you now. Which is like awesome. Very cool. Mark was great. So your homework, The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, which is on Pluto and Tubi, I'm sure, Plex, all those free online ones. Got 5.8 on IMDb, so I can't wait. Some of the things that are in this movie, there's a lot of superhero stuff that's in here that I don't know if these characters were ever mentioned in the show before. So it is quite interesting. So Jamie likes superhero movies, so this should be fun. So don't forget to review, rate, share our podcast. Follow us on all social media at Sequels Only. And don't forget to check out our website, sequelsonly.com. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.